is a Gaelic word, and it's pronounced Samhain. Doesn't look like that at all. Hardest part of learning about the Celts is how you speak the language. This is a time of really great reverence for the Celtic people. And it actually begins on November 1st, but we're close on the 28th of October. We're very close to being on that date. And it's the time of the year when we're entering the darkest time. And it's when the veil is the thinnest between the world we live in and the world of those who have departed, who've gone to the other side. And of course, we've been honoring that for the past week with the Day of the Dead that Reverend Mike will be talking about in the next service. Well, in this thin space, it gives us an opportunity to honor those that we love who've left our vision, they're not in our sight anymore. And often the Celts will leave a western window open, or they will leave a western door ajar, because the spirits are thought to come from that direction. Fire is used in the ceremonies. And of course we have a lot of fire lit. The jack-o'-lantern we have lit. I want to thank my son-in-law for carving that. He's an artist, so we have a really nice jack-o'-lantern this morning. And the bonfires that the Celts would have, they would have two big bonfires, and the people would parade through the town bringing their animals with them because they had already selected the animals that were to be slaughtered for the winter. And then remaining animals would walk through with the people to be purified and cleansed for the beginning of the dark, when the soul work really begins. Because the work of the hands is finished. The work of the autumn of gathering the seeds and nuts and fruits and vegetables and have been stored away. And Samhain also means November in the Gaelic tradition of Scotland and Ireland. And that's the beginning of the very coolest season, so of course the meat that was slaughtered, they would be able to keep it for the winter season. The bones of the slaughtered animals would also be placed on the bonfires as they were passing through. And I selected this slide because I don't know if you can see it, maybe it's too small, those of you who are far away, but on either side, that represents the two bonfires. And underneath, you see that the cattle are upside down because that is the time for preparing the meat for the winter. And so the slaughtering happens in this time. Now we'll see if I can make this work. So since the grains and the fruits and the nuts, as I had said before, were all ready, pulled in from the harvest and stored ready for the winter, and the animals were the last thing that needed to be attended to, and the soul work was beginning, the deep exploration and angels are available to the Celts to help them. Now, angels come in many forms. The angel that we see here is personified like a butterfly, the transformation of a butterfly. But angels appear as wee people, fairies, leprechauns, and they're there to help. They're there to serve. And those of us who visit Ireland and Scotland and say deprecating things about these beings, because they're real beings to the Celts, we do them a great disservice. It would be like they're coming here and saying bad things about our Judeo-Christian angels that have wings and halos. They just look different, but they are the same. Most of our traditions, our Halloween traditions, including the jack-o'-lantern that we have, date back to this time of the Celts and Samhain. It's believed from the earliest time, and I've done a lot of research, but the very earliest that I could find was that the Celts originated in Europe about 7,000 years ago, long time. And they would have come from the area that we would call Austria or Hungary, had they been countries at the time, but about in that general area. They migrated, of course, to the British Isles and found strong resting places in Scotland and Ireland. There is a terrific book, and I brought it, I wanted to show you, called How the Irish Saved Civilization. If you have an opportunity and you want to read something that is very interesting, I enjoyed it very much, you can see how the Celts held fast to their traditions even though people came in and changed things for them, wanted to change things for them, and how they were able to hold fast to their traditions. There was the Inquisition and the Reformation and many decimating movements that came to hopefully change them, and they were unable to. Much of the chants, the original teachings, the customs, and the language itself is very much the way it was originally when it arrived in Ireland and Scotland. And those who historically work hard at keeping that way have kept it an oral tradition. So that's how we learn about the Celts. It's quite an oral tradition. We can read a lot about it, but if you want to really learn about it, you learn from someone who is from that lineage. Well, they tried to come to the New World, these people. In the 1600s, they came, but they were not the Pilgrims. They were the people that we burned at the stake and we drowned because we thought they were witches, because they worshipped the elements, they worshipped natures, they kept their indigenous native ways, and it didn't fit in with the Pilgrims, and so they were not welcome in this country. So this is the new year. And the Celts are very similar to the Native American Indians here in America in the way that they honor and pay homage to nature and their ancestors. Although the language is Gaelic and it's tough, that's, as I said earlier, learning Gaelic is absolutely the hardest part. But I want to talk about the festivals. There are 8 main festivals, and 2 of them are the most important. One of them we're celebrating today, Samhain. It's the beginning of the dark. And the second one that is important is the beginning of the light, which is right below Beltane. So, from all things, we sow in the dark. That's when seeds are planted in the dark. Ideas are born in the dark. We co-create from that space that's invisible, so it's dark for us. Beltane, the beginning of light, is where it begins to grow. So the seeds get planted in the dark, and then in spring, when Beltane comes in May, we see the flowers that bloom and the crops that begin to come up. And most important, I want to mention here, is that we work from the inside out. That is the idea that I want to mention here. Because Samhain falls in the constellation of Scorpio, for those of you who look at those things, and the Celts did, as did the Mayans and all indigenous peoples. They depended upon the monthly calendar, where the stars were, where the sun was, where the moon was, to help them find their way and know what was to be next. The Mayans even planted everything according to the monthly calendar. But what I want to say about the month of Scorpio it is a secretive time. That's what we know about the Scorpio time. And it's a time to recognize what we might have held in secret and see if it's not time to bring that to light. I've heard it said in AA that we're only as sick as our secrets. So perhaps it's time to look and see what I've held as a secret that no longer needs to be held that way. These are common denominators for our indigenous roots. The Celts equate life to this wheel. It starts with Samhain, comes around to Yule, comes around this way, and then back to Samhain again. It goes clockwise around the wheel. And just as the calendar and the wheel moves through our lives. We notice that the opportunities change from perhaps the opportunity I have in November is not the same opportunity I have in January. And it's interesting to take a look at how that might perpetuate itself in one's own life. So the 8 festivals, the 2 most important ones I've told you about. The wheel has turned, and when it has turned at this pace, it's thin. It's thin. We're as close in the year as we ever are to those who have passed before us. Another wee one, another Celtic angel looking a little different. Samhain is All Hallows Eve, Halloween. When Catholicism came to the British Isles, they did what they could to change the way the Celts looked at things. But they liked this holiday. They really liked this because All Souls Day and All Saints Day came directly from this tradition. The Celts had it first, and the Catholics adopted this. One of the interesting things that I found also in researching this, often when we can't change somebody's opinion and we want them in our lives, we just kind of go with the flow a little bit. And the Catholic Church was just not able to change these Celts at all. The other aspect that they worked on very hard was St. Bridget. Well, she wasn't always St. Bridget. She was the Druid princess that the Celts revered, just like we revere Mary in the Christian tradition, and so they made her a saint. Now everybody worships St. Bridget. Since all of the spirits, those we love and those we don't, have access to crossing over from the other side at this time of year, folks do all kinds of things to ward off the evil ones, the ones they don't want to have any part with. They dress up in disguises. That's where dressing up for Halloween came from. Dressing up so that the evil spirits can't find you. I don't look like I always looked. I look different, so you can't find me. They carved pumpkins that they would put by the door and by the windows. They didn't carve pumpkins, we carved pumpkins. They carved turnips and rutabagas, tiny little things that they put on a stick with ugly faces, and they would walk with these in their disguises as they would walk through town, warding off the evil spirits. The jack-o'-lantern came in the 18th century, and that's our contribution to Halloween. There are many other things that we do. Did any of you ever bob for apples at Halloween? That might be an old thing. I know we did it, but I don't know if young people do that now. That came from Samhain, using apples in myriad ways from the harvest. One of the things they would do is peel the apples and then throw the apple peel over your shoulder and then turn around to see if there was a letter that would say the beginning of the name of your true love. So they did divining in various ways, and one of them was with apple peels. We're getting very close to that darkest and thinnest day. Today's October 28th, and Samhain actually begins the evening of November 1st. They count their days beginning in the evening. They don't count it when the sun rises, it's when the sun sets. And we ask both worlds, the one we're in now and the one to which we'll be going, to be open as we communicate with those who are etched in our minds and etched in our hearts, as we remember and honor those who have passed from our sides. We all have them. We all have people we love that we wish were sitting right next to us today, and they aren't. Each of you were given a candle when you came in the sanctuary. Is there anyone who does not have a candle? Okay, Rosie, will you make sure that the hands that are raised, that everybody has a candle? So if you'll take your candle, please, and hold it next to your heart. And feel the warmth of your own body warming the candle before we even light the fire. And we welcome those spirits whose name we are about to say out loud during our candle ritual. Samhain is a blessed time, and we are very blessed by these names that we carry inside our hearts. So we remember them. We remember our ancestors, our loves, our mentors. We remember. There are plenty of candles up here. There's a little tub of them. When you come forward to light your candle for the one you love, if you think of another person for which you want to light another candle, that's fine. We'll take as long as we need to do this ceremony, this ritual. And I ask you to begin, in lieu of time, to make things as expeditious as possible, to begin queuing up with your candle as I read this next piece. We call forward those blessed loves, mentors, and ancestors who have passed from us in the past 2 years. The past 2 years. And I remember with love Brian McDonald. If you'll come forward, please, and light your candle from the small candle. And this is for those who have passed in the past 2 years. Just place your lit candle on the tray. If you need another one, there's a bowl. Saying the name out loud to be blessed as you light the candle. There are so many, and time is of an essence, I know, to end this hour in a prompt manner. So as I light the second candle, it's for those who have passed in the last 25 years, whose memory might be a little dimmer from those who have just passed, but they're just as deeply in our heart. And I light this candle for my mom, Irma, for Irene, for Jackie, for Tom. And I invite you to come forward if you have lost someone that long ago. If you would please light a candle now from the second candle. And rather than have you come forward for this last candle, I would ask you to hold your hand over your heart and lift your left hand up to feel the energy in the room. And as I light this candle, give thanks for the blessing of mentors who've been gone a very long time, but who teach us still. And I light this candle for Ernest Holmes, Ralph Waldo Emerson, the Buddha, Jesus of Nazareth, my grandmother, and know with me as I close this ritual that we are blessed this Samhain. We are loved, and we have added light to the light that was planted inside of us. It's good, and it's very good, and we are ready to receive. And in the name of blessed Samhain, in the name of this center, I say thank you, Spirit. And so it is.